Hello, I'm Andrea Kellerman, your open minded psychologist, and today I'm going to talk about stress and how to navigate stress in 6 steps at your workplace. So, there are different steps that one can take, and there are many, many, many different techniques, but I'm going to narrow it down just to 6. So, the first one, for instance, being deep breathing. A lot of people don't really think that breathing is so important, but breathing is really, really, really important. So, when we, for instance, are very stressed and we breathe quite shallow, or we even stop breathing at times, then we don't have enough oxygen, which means that it doesn't go up into your brain, so you can't think so clearly, you feel even more flustered. So, what is really important is to learn to breathe properly. There are different ways how we can breathe and breathe properly. I'm going to give you an easy one. The easy one would be that you first of all have to breathe through your belly, not through your chest. So really like as if there's a balloon in your tummy or your belly that goes out and in. So that is really important. Otherwise we have shallow breathing. And we would like to then do it to the count of 4. So you would breathe in counting to 4, and that your tummy really then expands, breathing in. And in your mind, you count to 4, then you hold it for 4, and then you breathe out for 4. Then you hold it for 4 again, and then you breathe in. So it's a little bit like a square. So you breathe in, count to 4, hold it for 4, breathe out to 4, and then you hold it for 4 again. So that's the technique of 4. You're breathing in slowly, holding, breathing out slowly. So that is going to allow you to also be present, to be centered, and that would be my next point, to just be mindful. It allows you to then be in the present moment, because very often when we are stressed, we either think of something from the past that stresses us and we just think it over and over and over, mill it over and over and over, or we are worried about something in the future. So when we are present, in the present tense, then we generally are not as worried, or we're also not feeling so low when we think back and when you think back into the past. So we want to be mindful of what you are doing, mindful of where you are, and we can add different senses as well. So you can think, for instance, of 5 things that you're seeing. That's a technique of 5. So 5 things that you're seeing in the room. Then 4 things that you are smelling. Then 3 things that you are hearing, then 2 things that you are touching, and then 1 thing that you are tasting. So we want to go into our 5 senses as well. So when you think of those 5 different senses, you're not able to think of something that is worrying you about the future or about the past. So when we include the different senses, you are present. And when you are present, then you are more mindful of what is going on around you, and that would center you as well. So number 1, breathing. Number 2, being mindful. Mindfulness also means that you incorporate some kind of meditation or different grounding exercises that will allow you to feel centered and to just be in the moment. A very nice meditation there would, for instance, be that you, let's say, look at a plant or a rose or anything, and you just literally focus on it. And the interesting thing there is that we tend to drift. You're not able to focus on just something in front of you for longer than a minute. And a minute sometimes is even already quite long. So if you're able to just bring your mind back the whole time, you are literally decompressing, de-stressing yourself. And that can be a really quick one. The next one would be physical activity. So when we are very stressed, our cortisol goes up, which is your stress hormone. And by exercising, you actually bring it down. So we don't want to have these heightened cortisol and adrenaline levels, because they do stress us. We want to bring them down. And physical activity is a very good means of getting it done. So physical activity can be anything. If you don't belong to a gym or whatever, you can maybe walk a little bit of a longer distance, park your car a little bit further away from the building, or when you go shopping, for instance, as well. It doesn't have to necessarily pertain to your work. And then you have to walk a little bit longer, maybe up the stairs, and instead of taking the elevator, and if you, I don't know, go out or go to the toilet or whatever, rather walk a little bit more than not, because it actually will decrease your cortisol levels. In addition to that, it also increases the oxygen flow, and that will allow you to just feel more leveled out as well. Then it is very important to remember what you're putting into your mouth. If you're really quite stressed and anxious, you don't want to increase, for instance, sugars or caffeine. All of that increases your stress and inflammation levels in your body as well. And a lot of people are sensitive to caffeine, so it doesn't necessarily only have to be obviously coffee. It can also be your energy drinks that are also on top of that full of sugar. So that stresses your whole system as well, and it puts your system into that space of overdrive. Some people, as I said, are more sensitive than others, and that then can cause more stress, which is also not so good. So just to drink maybe herbal teas or more water is a lot more beneficial then. Our next step, number 5, is establishing a good routine. If you don't have a very good routine, the problem then is that you feel that you might not maybe get everything done that you want to get done. You might procrastinate, which causes more stress, and we also don't really want that. So if you have a good routine where you know what you're wanting to do next, it helps you to be more structured. It also helps you that you don't have to worry of, what do you need to do still. You obviously, if you have a routine, know exactly what is coming next. So it gives you that safety aspect as well. For some people, they don't like a routine. It's too rigid for them. And I understand that as well. So we don't want to be too rigid with a routine, because that can also cause stress on the other side, where we then overthink, and we might go a little bit into the OCD side of things to have to stick to everything. So that is also stressful. But a routine as such is not a bad idea, because then, as I said, you know what is going to come next. And if you structure your work, also like you first start with the difficult task when your brain is fresh, and then you go into the more easy tasks, like for instance, maybe answering some emails that are not so difficult, then your brain doesn't have to use so much energy for that. So if you structure your day in a clever way, then you're going to get more done. You know exactly what is going to come next. You will have that sense of accomplishment. And in addition to that, it just makes you feel good that you have the structure, and it makes you feel safe, as I said before. Then what is also really important is that we don't bottle things up. So our point number 6 is talk it out. A lot of people bottle their stresses up, their anxieties as well, because they think that they can deal with it themselves. And yes, partially we can. However, if we don't talk about it, then we can bottle it up and bottle it up. And then very often it can eat us up inside. It can then come out in physical or psychological symptoms, which is not good at all. And especially if we bottle it up for a longer period of time. Then it can also happen that we don't quite know what to say in certain situations. And if we have bottled it up, it can get to a point where we feel so overwhelmed that we don't find the right words anymore. And if we don't find the right words, then they can often come out in a quite explosive, aggressive way. And then afterwards we feel really bad that we have exploded like that. People around us don't quite understand us, because we might have before not said something in a certain situation, and now in a similar situation we're exploding. So that's a typical passive-aggressive communication style, which doesn't really get us to a comfortable, respectful outcome. So talking it out is really, really important, that you're not feeling overwhelmed, that you're not bottling up that stress. And if you have good friends, then that's obviously amazing. But watch out that you don't just moan about certain things the whole time, that you don't just, feel that you have to be negative and just offload everything on the friend the whole time. But on the other hand, obviously not saying something is on the other side of the spectrum. So both sides of the spectrum don't work. So talking to a friend about it is good, And then also hearing what the friend has to say about it. If the friend can be fairly neutral and empathetic, it doesn't really help to have a friend that is always agreeing with you, and then you don't see other perspectives and you don't really find a way out. If you don't have a good friend or a family member to talk to, then obviously there are many experts. When I have clients coming to me, for instance, they are often surprised how they can approach a certain situation in a different way, how they can learn all those different EQ, emotional intelligence skills, and then be so much more equipped for difficult situations. So it's always good to have someone that can show you different perspectives, that can ask you different questions where you then go, I never thought of that before, and I didn't even understand the situation from that angle, and now it makes more sense why that person reacted this way. So all of that is really, really important. If I now sum it up, number one, deep breathing, really important to have that oxygen flow going and to just calm your nervous system down. Number two, being mindful of all your thoughts, where you are, staying present, and then also adding meditation and our sensory techniques to that. Number three, physical activity, so that you can bring down the cortisol levels, that you can just calm your nervous system down as well and level it out. Number four, watch out what you're eating. If it is too much caffeine, sugar, or even processed foods that are going to stress your body so much more. Number five, establishing a good routine so that you feel so much more in control, even though certain things might be out of your control. At least your routine is what you are controlling. So that is really great, and it gives you that sense of safety and security. And number six, talk it out. Talk about it. Don't bottle it up, so that you can actually change things, look at it from different perspectives, and then communicate in a much more effective way. So I hope that those tips helped you. We will go a lot more in depth in different other episodes. I'm your open-minded psychologist, always approaching things from different angles and giving you all the hints and tips. Please subscribe and like this video if it was helpful for you. Please also share it with your friends, family, community. After all, we all want to be less stressed, and the less stressed people we have in this world, the better for all of us.